Evening everyone, welcome back to some late night hypermine. Right, I'm just hanging around here with my bees because, well, they need constant tending because that's what bees do. They just hang around and they don't do anything intelligent. My industrious drones are going well, my imperials are going very well, and there's a couple of other breeds that I have floating about in the wild that are doing okay. I'm getting pretty close to my oily bees right now, as well as where I left off with bees in the last season, where I'm getting close to getting my food bees essentially. But after giving it a little bit of a test run, the power system is not very good because I'm not generating enough biofuel. So I'd either have to really expand the amount of biofuel I'm generating, or I'd need to figure out a different way. And I'm thinking it's probably the best that I figure out a different way, because this is just simply too slow, even with a fertilizer. But I'm not composting at the minute, so it's not quite as fast as it could be. Maybe that would be the solution. So maybe we can give that a shot for a couple of hours. But really we'd need to think about a more permanent solution, something that will give us perfectly stable power for a long time. And I could use more of the hydrogen generators and just set up a big farm of them. A single aqueous accumulator can hold up to 4, and they will generate quite a lot of power. And I could use redstone energy cubes. So let's just take a look at lead. So like a leadstone energy cell. There we go. Gate. Right, so I think this one is the one that we would want in the end. Resin, well, this Inderium ingots. These are the reason why I didn't worry about the Tesseract so much. Though maybe I should actually just bite the bullet and get some Tesseracts made. Yeah, so if you take a look, there's nothing happening here because the growth is just so slow that it doesn't even happen often enough. And the split isn't perfect either. It will do one big load and it will send it down the diamond pipe, and then the next load will come in via the planter. So once there we go, finally something happens. A couple of things happened at once, typical. But geez, must be because I'm here. I wonder if this is just out of range of a chunk loader. I wonder if that's actually the issue. I can make another chunk loader and put that here. I've done a little bit of work around here. I'm playing around with carpets. I really wanted to actually have this whole area be done before you saw it, but you know, such is life. Let's go make ourselves another chunk loader quickly. I still haven't fixed anything with the ME system. Yeah, so I need to build so many more storage cells, and I like to build the 16K, though I could probably get away with a lot of 4K cells. Maybe that would be the way to go. But I'll do that just now, not now. Okay, let's take a... Oh, I know exactly what it needs, but this makes everything a little bit faster. Boom. There we go. Nice and quick. So we'll chunk load this thing, and what I'll do is I'll set up a composter and fertilizer generation so that we're actually going to be generating a lot of fertilizer, and then hopefully it will generate so much stuff that it'll easily be able to keep up. So if we stick the chunk loader over here. Right. Okay, so I'm going to let that run for a little bit, and I will come back to this later. In the meantime, I'm going to just quickly make a little sewerage area with a composter and make the fertilizer fly free, so to speak. And I'll check you in a minute. How's it? Okay, so we're back, and I haven't really got much further because what happened was I reviewed my audio footage, because I try to do that every now and then. I do like a sampling of my audio footage, and I noticed that I was speaking a little bit differently. You may have noticed, and this is actually my South African accent. It can get a little bit heavier. Doesn't always get heavier, but it can do. And yeah, you'll notice that this isn't how I normally talk. So this may have come as a shock to you. I'm trying to think how best to explain this really. What had happened was I'd basically been speaking to my father, and because my father's South African, when we tend to talk to each other, my mode of speaking automatically goes more South African, like way more. Right. 12. So yeah, I mean that happens, and that happens to me all the time. If I speak to my dad, that's it. This is what you're going to get at the end of it. Now we need this. Okay. We need 4. Yeah. So I don't speak like this all the time. You may have noticed, because it's not that it's not my real accent or anything. It is my real accent. It is exactly how I used to talk. But when I came to the UK, now many years ago, this was my coping mechanism, because, well, being different was hard, and I'd kind of got ripped out of where I was happy. I really loved being in South Africa. It was a fantastic place to live. Obviously, a little bit different because I'm a white South African, and I'm not an Afrikaner. I'm what is known as an English South African, which means that my family primarily spoke English and not Afrikaans. So that may come as a disappointment to some of you who are hoping that when this call comes out, I am some mental Afrikaner. But unfortunately for you, that's not the case. I wonder if this is going to be okay. May have to set up a farm with them. Maybe I'll go try Dartcraft Energy. Yeah, so I thought after watching and listening to the last bit that maybe I should try using this accent a little bit more. It's not a difficult thing for me. I don't actually have to think about maintaining the accent. The accent. I slip into it very naturally. It's just a switch that I flick, and suddenly I'm speaking normally. So here I'm just speaking as you would normally expect me to speak, and here I'm suddenly speaking South African, and that you can hear the sudden switch always causes my voice to go a little bit funny. It's weird because it's just one of those things that I've always done. Anytime I speak to another South African, suddenly the accent comes through, and it comes through much heavier to start with, and then it sort of goes into what I consider to be my proper South African accent. But the funny thing is that everything changes. My mannerisms all change, the way I speak, the way I say things. How best to describe it, really? Because I start to use different words. How do I make that? I don't know how to make these things. I start to use different words, and I don't say the same level of things. Funny enough, when I'm speaking as an English person, I use bigger words, and it's not because South Africans are dumb. by generals there. It's just that they seem to fit better. Yeah, it's just a different way of speaking, a way of seeing things, and it affects everything. It affects everything from the way I deal with people to how I articulate, and I gesticulate quite a lot when I'm South African, and I thought about it there, and then suddenly the accent moved up a pitch. That's weird, you know. And some of the mannerisms change in the way that I say things like when I'm going to do something. Because in South Africa, just now means sort of in the future at some point. If I tell you I'm going to do something just now, it means don't expect it right away, because it ain't going to happen. But if I tell you I'm going to do something now, I'm going to do it like really shortly, even possibly right then. It's just there's now, and then there's just now. And there we go. And I start to throw in Afrikaans words. So I use lekker quite a lot. Lekker is a very, very common South African word. It means literally tastes good, but it's used for everything. And if it's good, it's lekker. It's alright. It's not bad. It's lekker. And if it's really good, it's baie lekker. I am a little bit lost here as to what I'm supposed to be doing. I think my brain hasn't quite twigged that I need to be doing something here. I'm gonna go check out the bees whilst I talk at you about being a person with two actual accents that he considers natural. So I don't know, maybe if you prefer this one, then I can use it all the time. It's not actually a problem. I had a train of thought there, and warping completely broke it. Oh well, such is life. What's funny is that I typically only really speak as a South African around my parents, in particular my father, my dad, because my dad is an Afrikaner, and he always has been. So the way he speaks is how he has always spoken, and he never thinks anything different of it. Oh, that's unfortunate. This looks like the nice breeding stock is building up here. I need to automate these bloody beehives. Yeah, I think I shall go do that now quickly. Yeah, I mean, it came up today. Like I said, I was speaking to my father, my dad. I don't know why I keep correcting myself there. It's completely unnecessary. But when I speak to him, we have a particular way of greeting each other, because my father and I didn't really get on at all for a very, very long time. We had to work together eventually to sort of overcome it. Mostly because I was an awful child. in more ways than can be described in a single video. It's a real sob story, I can tell you. And yeah, so we didn't get on, and because we're both very stubborn people, we would be constantly at loggerheads, just always attacking each other, never relenting. It was awful. But we have a particular way of greeting each other, and whilst I can't actually say how I greet my father on YouTube, because if there's any young people watching and listening, and if they learn it, then it's awful. It is really not a nice thing to say, but it's just the way that we greet each other. And my father calls me Bokkie Bart, and it actually goes back because I used to have a goatee. I now have the full beard, but I used to primarily have the goatee. And Bokkie Bart means goat's beard, or little goat's beard. Because a bokkie is a goat. It's bok, or, yeah, bok. You may have heard springbok, which is just a springbuck. It's just a type of antelope, but the bok bit is basically goat. So it's a springing goat, a jumping goat, is what that is. Oh, I keep losing my train of thought. I'm really sorry. So, what he calls me that, and I call him an old man essentially, but it's a different way of saying things. So I'm going to start to teach you a little bit of slang, so that just, if I'm going to do this a little bit more full time, you're going to have to learn the slang because I use it a lot. I'm not using it at the minute, and that's a conscious decision. But if I go full Sappho, I tend to use lots of slang. And the first one you're going to have to learn is O. And O is used in two contexts. The first is old. So O typically means old, and that is pretty much exactly what it means. But at the same time, in South Africa, O is also used to describe just a person, a man. So you would say, check out that O, and that just means, look at that guy. You check him out. That's what you do. You don't look at him. You're checking him out. It's because South Africans, by their very nature, their absolute perfect nature, is that they are defensive at all times. You live in a country that is almost always enveloped in violence in some way or form, unless you live in the Cape, and it breeds a sort of a mindset into you, so that you're always checking people out. The next one that you're going to hear quite a lot is tune. So tune means, how best to describe it? It's like when you're talking to somebody, but you're not being serious. You're being really facetious or sarcastic, and you say, "Are you tuning me, bro?" And that is just exactly how most arguments start. So I introduced a new one there. That was brew. Now brew is like brother, but it's a little bit more informal, way more informal, and it's usually used in the negative. You don't really typically say, hey brew, and mean it in a nice way. It's usually used in a semi-aggressive way, even if you're not actually being aggressive or anything. The very nature of the word, it's quite a harsh word, so you say brew, and it's almost an affront, And then we have boet. Boet, B-O-E-T, is quite literally brother. And I use this all the time. I even use it when I'm speaking as an English person. I say boet all the time because it's such a nice word. I like saying it. So I have two boets. I have two brothers, an older one and a younger one. And anytime you speak to each other, it's how's it, boet? Now, how's it is a funny word, because even though it's a South African greeting, it means two different things there as well. And the real difference there is whether it's used by an English South African or an Afrikaans South African. And I tend to use it in the Afrikaans South African manner, which is to say, how are you? So you would say, how's it? And it's hello and how are you all at the same time. And the proper response is like, yeah, fine, bro. It's alright. The other way is the English way, which is just to say hello. That's all that is. It's nothing. There's no question there. Is how's it? How you doing? That's how you would go. You wouldn't even think that you've compressed all of it into one thing anyway. What else? I'm giving you a language lesson here, and I'm sucking at it. It's awful. Let's work its way through that. Oh, come on. Okay, that reminds me of a couple of others. Right, so what I really wanted to yell there was Bliksem. And Bliksem basically means fight, punch, attack. It's a threat that you will Bliksem somebody. You're going to fight them, punch them, attack them, beat them up. But at the same time, you use it as a sort of insult. You Bliksem. It's weird. You know, it doesn't actually have anything to do with not attacking somebody. You can't really use it as an insult because it's a verb. But you do. In South Africa, we do. You call somebody a Bliksem, it means they're just not a nice person. I'm trying not to swear. It's so easy. We have so many ways of swearing in South Africa, and it's not even... Some of them aren't even funny. I mean, they... it's... Okay, I'll give you an example. Okay. It's none of the words you hear here are going to be swear words, but they will come across as swear words. And the words are futsek. Futsek means go away, but it means it in the harshest possible terms. So, in English, your response would start with F and end with off. And that's what futsek is, except without actually swearing. It doesn't actually mean that, it just means go away, shoo, be gone. But in the parlance, it's harsher. So, and we swear like that all the time. It's just constant, and young kids learn that right from an early age, because you use it to tell a dog to go away. Your dog comes up and it's sniffing at your food, you say, futsek! You'd say it a lot louder and harsher than that, but I'm trying not to shout. It's a funny way of speaking. What are good examples? I mean, we're kind of running out of time here. But I will use these words quite a lot if I'm going to do this more often, or all the time, or whatever the deal is. Because I can't help myself. I don't really think about it. I would never stop and think about telling something to futsek. Or really swearing, in a way, is to say yamu, and it's not a swear word. I can't even remember exactly what it means, but it's not actually a swear word. But it's basically really, really rude to say yamur. It's like murder, killer, but you know, it doesn't actually mean just that. Oh, as soon as I figure it out, I will tell you. I will let you know. I'll do a little primer on understanding South African slang, because there is a lot of it. I'm not covering even the tiniest little portion here. We have so many words, and there are 11 languages in South Africa. So we pull words from everywhere. One thing you're going to hear me say a lot is China. China is a word grab from British because of the slang. Oh God, what Cockney rhyming slang? That's it. China plate, mate. But in South Africa, we just say China. You know, how's it, my China? Ja, is goed, but it's alright. Ja, nee, it's alright. Okay, there's another good one. Ja, nee. Ja, nee is quite literally yes, no. And do I have that hat? No loss. I do have that hat. What about this one? No, I don't. Woohoo! Hat gained. See, I switched right into my normal English-speaking accent there. No idea why. I just thought of saying that in that way. Alright, I'm going to actually leave you here. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you want me to speak with my South African accent a little bit more often or all the time, I'm happy to do so. It's not an issue. It's not something I have to concentrate on or even think about. It just happens. If I want it to happen, it happens. I'd love to get your opinions on it in the comment section below. Yeah, I suppose that's it actually. So thanks for watching everybody. You've been a fantastic audience as always, and I will see you next time. Please let me know if you like this accent or do you want me to go back to how I was speaking. And I shall see you next time. Adios.